Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel and another video. Today I'm going to be doing brick stitch and I'm going to be making a pair of earrings. I had a request from one of my viewers. The name is Bon Boozley, I believe, that wanted to know if I did football earrings. This person had watched one of my previous tutorials on a pair of earrings I did with the face of the Grinch. So this is for that viewer. I promised them I would do a tutorial on this, doing a football pair of earrings. So that's what we're going to do today. Very easy. We'll review the materials first, and you can see a glimpse of what we're going to be making today. Got three different types of, three different colors of Miyuki Delica 11-0 beads. We've got white, and then I'm using, it's kind of a tarnished antique copper looking. You could use brown. And then green. And I've got a pair of scissors and a size 10 beading needle, a couple of wire guardians, and 2 earring lever backs. I'm using 6-pound Fireline and crystal because since I'm using white beads, I don't want to use black. So the crystal I think will work well. But with brick stitch, it's nice because you can't really see the thread unless you're looking at the wire guardian. That's the only place really you can see it. So the thread is very well concealed in a brick stitch pattern. Super easy to make. All right, so grab your materials and let's get started. You're going to start by threading your needle with about 1.5 yards of your Fireline. And so I've got that ready. What we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to pick up 2 of our Delicas. And so with this pattern, I'm going to have the different rows at the top of the screen for you as we get into this. You'll see what the different color steps are and how many of each that you need. Super easy to do. And then further into the film, I'm going to do this on fast forward, so this is not such a long video. All right, so you're going to start by picking up 2 of your Delicas in white, like this. You're going to bring that down, and you want to leave, I'm going to say about an 8-inch tail, because we're going to use that tail thread to put on our earring finding at the end. So from here, I'm going to go back through the first bead, like that. Pull your thread, and those are going to stack next to each other, like that. So now I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to come back down. I want to reinforce this. So I'm going to come down the bead on the right and pull. Now I'm going to come back up the bead on the left, like that. And you want to just pinch that between your fingers and pull. Try not to get your thread tangled. It's a little awkward at first, but you'll get it. So that's the first 2 beads you have right there. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. I want my tail thread on the right hand side, like that. If you can see that. I have trouble with the focus here. So my tail thread is the one on the right. My working thread here is on top. So that's row 1. For row 2, we're going to pick up a white, a green, and a white. Now, because I'm going back this direction, I'm going to increase. So I'm picking up, every time you start a new row, you're picking up 2 beads. So I picked up a white and a green, like this. I'm going to bring my needle under the thread bridge, right here. Like that. Just kind of hold on to it. It's going to be a little clumsy at first because it's your first few rows is the hardest to keep everything straight. Just try to keep your tail thread from getting tangled, and we're going to pull. And you want those to stack. So from here, I'm going to go back up my green bead. So I'm going to go back up like that. Just pinch it between your fingers, pull your thread nice and slow. Now I'm going to come down my white bead like that. And I'm going to come back up my green bead right there. If I get this to focus, there we go. Okay. So I have to pick up one more white bead to complete row 2. So I've got one white delica, and you want to go under the thread bridge that you've already been through. So you have to kind of get your needle underneath here like that. Get under that same thread bridge that you used for the green bead. And now we're going to go back up the white bead. Like that. Pinch that between your fingers, pull your thread, and that's what you should have so far. That's row 2. Now we're going to start row 3. Now we're coming this direction. So each row you're going to the right, and then you're going to the left, and then you're going to the right. I'm not flipping my work over, so I'm just going to stay with this. And the way you know your tail should be on the right-hand side so that you know you have the correct orientation of your work. So now we're going on to row 3. I'm going to pick up a white, 2 green, and 1 white. So every time you start a new row, you're going to pick up 2 beads. So I'm going to pick up a white and a green to start. I'm going to go under the first thread bridge because I'm increasing right there. And you want those to stack like that. It could be a little wobbly. So now I'm going to come back up my green bead. Pinch that between your fingers, pull your thread. Now I've got to reinforce, so I'm going to come down the white bead and then up the green bead. And every time you do a new row where you start with 2 beads, you need to reinforce like that. So now I'm going up. Now I need to pick up a green bead, go under the next thread bridge, and that's the last thread bridge. Now bring your needle up through the green bead you just added. And you want to make sure you're in front of the thread, otherwise you're going to undo your work. So that's where we want to be. Pinch that while you pull your thread. That's what you have so far. Now we're going to pick up the last white bead for this row. And we need to go under that same thread bridge, so you have to kind of angle your needle. Get under the thread bridge. Pull your needle through, pinch and hold your work while you pull. Now you're going to bring your needle back up through the white bead we just added. All right, so that's row 1 through 3. Now we're going on to row 4. For row 4, you're going to need 1 white, 3 green, and 1 white. So I'm going to pick up a white, and a green. I'm exiting this end white bead. I'm going to go under the very first thread bridge right there. And I need to reinforce. So I'm going to go up the green bead, down the white bead, and back up the green bead. So now I'm going to pick up another green bead. I'm going to go under the very next thread bridge. Go back up the green bead you added. Pull that so that you don't have any thread gaps. To continue, I'm picking up another green bead. And we're going under this last thread bridge. Bring your needle back up the green bead. And we have one more bead to add. Pick up a white bead. Go under that same thread bridge. Now go back up this bead you just added. That completes row 4. For row 5, we're going to add 6 greens. So we're coming back this direction. So you're going to start by picking up 2 green. The beginning of each new row, you're picking up 2 beads. So we have 2 greens, and we're going under the very first thread bridge. We're going to come up the last bead we added, which is this green one on the inside. And we need to reinforce. So we're going to go down the green on the outside and then up the green on the inside. Continue picking up your green beads, going under each thread bridge. I'm picking up my last green bead, going under that very same thread bridge for the last bead I did. Bring your needle back up the last bead you just added. That completes row 5. For row 6, we're picking up 2 green, 3 green, 3 brown, and 2 green. So to start, we're going to pick up our two greens to start because it's a new row. And I'm going under the first thread bridge. I'm going to bring my needle back up the last bead I added. And I'm going to reinforce. I'm going to come down the outside bead and then up the inside bead. Now we're going to pick up a brown bead, go under the next thread bridge. Now bring your needle back up the bead you just added. Pick up another brown bead, go into the next thread bridge, pull your needle through, and then go back up the bead you just added. And continue adding till we get to the end of the row. So you have 1 more brown bead to pick up and then 2 more green beads. So pick them up one at a time, go under the thread bridge and then through the bead you added. I'm picking up my last green bead for row 6, going under that same thread bridge we just went through. Bring your needle back up the bead you just added. Now we're doing row 7. You need 2 greens, 4 browns, and 2 greens. Start by picking up 2, going under the very first thread bridge. Go up the last bead you added, reinforce. Pick up a brown bead and continue. Continue adding your beads till you get to the end of the row. So we have 3 more brown and 2 more green to add. Coming down to my last 2 beads, so I've got 1 green to add under the last thread bridge. Now pick up the last green bead, go under the same thread bridge, and back up the last bead. That completes row 7. Now we're going to row 8. You need 2 green, 5 white, and 2 green. Pick up your first 2 beads, go under the first thread bridge, and reinforce. Continue adding your beads until we get to the end. So you have 5 white and 2 green to add still. So continue adding 1 bead at a time till you get to the end of the row. I'm coming down to my last bead, which is a green bead, going under the last thread bridge that I've already been through once. Bring my needle back up that bead, and that completes row 8. For row 9, you need 2 green, 6 white, 2 green. And just like we do with all of our beginning rows, you start with picking up 2 beads, going under the first thread bridge because we're still increasing. Then you're going to reinforce. As you're doing your work, you want to try to keep your tail thread from getting in the way. So I've got my first 2 beads added. Now I'm going to continue adding the remainder of my white beads and my 2 green beads, and then we'll go on to the next row. I'm adding my last bead for row 9. That's what you should have so far. Now we're going to go on to row 10. For row 10, you need 2 green, 7 brown, and 2 green. Start with your first 2 beads because it's the beginning of a new row, going under that first thread bridge, and reinforce. Now you're going to continue adding your beads till you get to the end. This completes row 10. For row 11, you need 2 green, 4 brown, 2 white, 2 brown, and 2 green. Start with your 2 greens under the first thread bridge, reinforce, and continue adding the remainder of your beads, 4 brown, 2 white, 2 brown, and 2 green. Going under the first thread bridge, reinforce, and continue adding 1 bead at a time until you get to the end. This completes row 11. You had 2 green, 4 brown, 2 white, 2 brown, and 2 green. Now we're going on to row 12. For row 12, you need 2 green, 3 brown, 1 white, 5 brown, and 2 green. Starting with our 2 beads at the beginning of the row, we're still going under the first thread bridge. And continue adding beads until you get to the end. Coming down to my last bead, going under that same thread bridge. This completes row 12. And you want to come back up the last bead you added. And now we'll go on to row 13 with 2 green, 5 brown, 2 white, 3 brown, and 2 green. Coming this direction. So we're picking up our first 2 green, going under the first thread bridge, reinforcing, and continue adding your beads 1 bead at a time. That completes row 13. Now we'll go on to row 14. 3 green, 3 brown, 1 white, 5 brown, and 3 green. So we're beginning row 14 by picking up our first 2 beads and then continuing with the remaining pattern. Going under the first thread bridge, reinforcing, and then adding the remainder beads 1 bead at a time. Coming down to my last green bead, going under that same thread bridge of my last bead, bringing my needle back up, and that completes row 14. That's what you should have so far. So now we're going on to row 15, 3 green, 5 brown, 2 white, 3 brown, and 3 green. Row 16, 4 green, 3 brown, 1 white, 5 brown, and 4 green. Beginning of each new row, you're going to pick up 2 beads and then add 1 bead under each thread bridge thereafter. Going under the first thread bridge, reinforce, and continue. Coming down to my last 3 beads, they're all green for the last 3, and it looks like this pattern is starting to take shape. You can see the little outline of the football taking shape. Super easy to make. And this is our last green bead going under that last same thread bridge. Go back up the last bead you added, pull, and that completes row 15. Now we're going on to row 16, which is our last row of increasing. And again, row 16 is 4 green, 3 brown, 1 white, 5 brown, 4 green. And as we did on all the patterns, pick up your first 2 beads, going under the first thread bridge, going up that inside bead, reinforce, coming down the outside bead, and back up the inside bead. Continue adding 1 bead at a time for the remainder beads until we get to the end. Then I will show you how to decrease for the rest of the pattern. Alright, I'm coming down to my last green bead for row 16, going under that same thread bridge, bringing my needle back up the last bead I added. That completes row 16, and that is the end of increasing our rows. So now we're going to start row 17. And for the remainder amount of the rows, we'll be decreasing. So from rows 17 through 32, we'll be decreasing. Now we're starting row 17. So starting from row 17, and for the remainder of this pattern, you're going to be decreasing. So we do that at the beginning and at the end of the row. So for row 17, you're going to need 3 green, 5 brown, 2 white, 3 brown, and 3 green. The same rule applies. At the beginning, you're picking up 2 beads. So we start with our 2 green beads. The only difference is we're not going into the first thread bridge now. We're going to go into the second thread bridge to start each row from here on out. So you go under the second thread bridge, and you're still doing 2 beads at the beginning of the row. And now we do the same thing, go up the last bead you just added and reinforce. Come down the outside bead and back up the inside bead. Pull that nice and snug because you want these to be stacked. And as you notice, going under the second thread bridge makes the row slightly indented. So that is the beginning of decreasing. Continue adding the remainder of your beads the same way, one bead at a time under each thread bridge that follows. And I'll meet you at the end. I'm coming down to my last green bead for row 17, and as you see I have one thread bridge left. Go under that and up that bead you just added. That completes row 17, and as you can see it's going to start going towards a point. So now we'll be going on to row 18. To start row 18, you need 3 green, 3 brown, 1 white, 5 brown, and 3 green. For row 19, you need 2 green, 5 brown, 2 white, 3 brown, and 2 green. So we'll start row 18 by picking up 2 of your beads. In this case, it's 2 greens. We're going into the very second thread bridge. Just remember that going forward because we're decreasing now. Go up the bead you added last and reinforce, and you only do that at the beginning of each row. Come down the bead on the outside and up the bead on the inside. Continue adding the remainder of your beads for row 18, and then we'll continue. Coming down to my last bead for row 18, going into the last thread bridge, and that completes row 18. Now we're going to do row 19. Again, that's 2 green, 5 brown, 2 white, 3 brown, 2 green. Pick up your first 2 beads. We're going under the second thread bridge. Reinforcing, and then continue adding each bead under the very next thread bridge, 1 bead at a time. This completes row 19. To begin row 20, you need 2 green, 3 brown, 1 white, 5 brown, and 2 green. Start with your first 2 green, going under the second thread bridge. Reinforce and continue with the same pattern. This is my last bead for row 20. And now we'll go on to row 21. For row 21, you need 2 green, 4 brown, 2 white, 2 brown, 2 green. Coming down to my last green bead for row 21, and this completes row 21. And we're getting near the end here. For row 22, you'll need 2 green, 7 brown, and 2 green. Pick up your first 2 beads, going under the second thread bridge, and then single beads thereafter under the next thread bridge. This completes row 22, and now we'll go on to row 23. You'll need 2 green, 6 white, and 2 green. Picking up your first 2 green, going under the second thread bridge, reinforce and continue. This is our last green bead for row 23. And this completes row 23. To begin row 24, you'll need 2 green, 5 white, and 2 green. First 2 going under the second thread bridge, as we normally do. Reinforce and continue. We have 2 green beads left to add to the last 2 thread bridges, and this will complete row 24. And now we will continue to row 25. You'll need 2 green, 4 brown, and 2 green. Coming to my last green bead, and this completes row 25. This completes row 25. For row 26, you'll need 2 green, 3 brown, and 2 green. Continue in the same manner, picking up 2 beads, going under the second thread bridge, and then each thread bridge thereafter. And this completes row 26. Now we'll go on to row 27. You'll need 6 green. Pick up your first 2. Go under the second thread bridge, reinforce, and then add your remaining beads 1 bead at a time under each thread bridge. This completes row 27. Row 28, you'll need 1 white, 3 green, 1 white. So you're going to pick up a white and a green to start, go under your second thread bridge, and continue. This is the last white bead for row 28. And this completes row 28. We're almost done. To start row 29, you need 1 white, 2 green, 1 white. Picking up a white and a green, going under the second thread bridge, reinforce, and continue. This completes row 29. For row 30, you need 1 white, 1 green, 1 white. Going under the second thread bridge, reinforce, pick up our last white bead, go under the last thread bridge, and this completes row 30. For row 31, you need 2 whites, going under the second thread bridge, reinforce, go back up the last bead, down the bead on the left, up the bead on the right, and pick up your last bead for row 32, 1 white bead, and we're exiting this delica here. We're going to go into the one right next to it. And that bead is just going to lay on its side like that. Reinforce, go back up the bead on the right, go through the bead you added, and then down the bead on the left. We're going to go through all 4 of these white beads. From here, we're just going to weave our thread back and forth. No need to do half hitch knots here. The weave is pretty tight. So I'm going to just come through a few more beads on the side here. And it doesn't matter which way you go or how many, beads you want to go through. Just pick a path and zigzag to reinforce. So now I'm just going to come up through a few beads here, and you want to do it in such a way that your thread isn't going to show. So I'm just going to go through a couple of beads like that. Now I'm going to come down this direction. Go through those 2 beads. I'm going to come up a couple of beads and down, and then I'm going to cut my thread off. So that looks like a good place right there. So I'm just going to cut that off. That's my working thread. So now I'm going to take my needle and use my tail thread to put my earring finding on. So what we're doing today is we're going to be putting a wire guardian on. If you don't have that, you can use a jump ring or whatever you have in your stash. So I've got that tail thread threaded. Going to grab my wire guardian, my earring lever back. So I'm just going to come up through the wire guardian like that. I'm going to come down through the other side of the wire guardian, and I'm going to pick up my earring finding, come through the loop, and what I'm going to do is pass this through my wire guardian like that. Now you could, just open up your earring finding and add it after the fact, but I just like to do this in one step. So now I'm exiting my wire guardian here. I'm going to come down through just the first bead because I want to reinforce. So I'm going to pull this. Make sure that your thread is in the channel of your wire guardian. I'm going to come back up this bead on my left, up through the wire guardian, pass through the earring finding, going over the channel, making sure my thread is going in the wire guardian. I'm going to come down the other side, down through that bead again. And just hold your finger in place to guide the thread so it stays in the channel, like that. I'm going to reinforce this one more time. You can do it however many times you want. I like to do at least 3 times. It just gives it a very sturdy attachment. And now at this point that I've gone through 3 times, I'm just going to weave my thread just like I did down here and then clip that off, and then we'll wrap this video up. All right, so this concludes our video. Here's our cute little pair of football earrings. Looks like it's on a football field with the green grass behind it. Pretty cool. And you can orient these either direction. Maybe you want the footballs to be facing each other like this, or maybe you want the lines on the same side. Just orient your earring finding whatever direction you want your football to face. Very cool. So I hope my viewer enjoys this video. Bon Boozley, I believe, is the name. Anyway, there you have it, your football earrings that you asked for. This concludes today's tutorial, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for joining me today. There will be links in the description box below with all of the beads used in today's tutorial. I have a website where I sell my own jewelry. You'll see a link to that as well, and check it out because I do have periodic sales, and you'll see these earrings posted for sale on there as well if you'd like to buy a pair. Also, if you're not a subscriber, I hope that you do subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you're notified when I have new videos. I want to thank all of you who have subscribed and keep sharing my channel link, bringing in new subscribers. I really appreciate it. Please like and comment on my videos. I also enjoy that as well. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.